billiards table. His hands were pale and leathery, pressed together in a forced gesture of invoking calm. His nickname was Cash, after the man in black, who people said he resembled, but to Lee, the older man looked more like Samuel Beckett in his prime. The same owl eyes and face like an ancient map, etched with every road travelled and lesson learned. Furman was an old hand in the Northbridge nightclub scene, one of the survivors, and he'd witnessed everything in his time. Furman's mineral blue eyes read Lee's own, looking for meaning.
"How's the Phoenix coming along?" he asked, genuine interest in his voice.
Lee had spent the day grinding the 65 Dodge back to bare steel, as a preface to the Bondo work he'd anticipated spending the night doing, filling out the minor flaws in the surface steel before sanding it back with the long brick, a job requiring a good eye and plenty of patience. Earlier in the day he'd set the radio to RTR, his hand still vibrating with the grinder's impossible RPM, walking around the car shell while smoking a cigarette. Lee had a permanent corner of Jerry Tracker's mechanics workshop in Spearwood that he used when Jerry left at 5, often welding, grinding and sanding through the night. It was good, meditative labour that took his mind off things, although dirty and hot under the bank of dusty fluoro lights. Every car presented a different set of problems, and every problem taught Lee a solution that he could employ next time. He had use of Jerry's hoist and welding tools, and if he got stuck with something, then Jerry was there in the morning to cast an eye. It's down to bare steel. Very Mad Max. I like the look. Might put a few coats of clear on it and leave it that way.
Client go for that?
Hell no. It's a stock restoration, but I can dream.
I trust your eye. You think that'd work on the FB?
Furman had a collection of old cars, stored in a Malaga warehouse that had more security than the Perth Mint. He was always threatening to throw some work Lee's way, but hadn't so far. The blue and white one? The one you want to chop down, section and hot rod?
The one.
Lee danced his head, a way of saying maybe. He didn't want to think about it now. He liked to work on one restoration project at a time, enjoying the way his mind threw out ideas at random moments. Every job demanded more than it first appeared. When he lifted off the Dodge shell a month ago, he discovered that the chassis was rusted through and out of square. Some idiot had also fiberglassed the floor pans to disguise more rust. The Dodge looked good from the outside, but it would crumple like a paper bag on any kind of impact. It had taken 3 weeks of cutting and welding supports and plate steel before the chassis and shell were any good. Fortunately, the client had deep pockets, and Lee was getting paid by the hour. Furman lit a cigarette, the polite conversation over.
You're on the door with Rowdy Tim, 8 to 2. I've already warned Rowdy, but when you see him, make sure he isn't carrying his revolver. I'm not sure how to do that. Give him a hug or something?
Both of them laughed. Rowdy Tim wasn't the hugging kind. You heard anything more on the street? Lee asked, pretty sure the answer was no. The Hasty brothers were too smart to voice their intentions. The threat to storm the door and help themselves to a drink had been made to Furman, and 1 or 2 other bar staff just before closing last night, when the brothers felt humiliated at being asked to leave, even though the lights were off. They wanted a lock-in drink for old time's sake, which wasn't going to happen. Theirs was a childish threat, but even so, the repercussions could be bad. If word got around that the door of Club Summertime could be rushed, or that the doormen weren't up to the job, then every hoon with a reputation would be lining up for a crack. Tonight was about saving face, and for that reason the cops couldn't be on standby, and neither could they stack the door with bouncers. It had come across as weak. The Hasty brothers understood the coercive power of violence. Their MO was about escalation, doing what most people wouldn't do, so that a mere threat became effective.